Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So it is still the beginning of the month. We did our House prediction yesterday, and today I'm going to be doing my 2022 Senate prediction for the month of September for the midterms that are going to be coming up in just over 2 months. This is the general election season. There's only one primary left that's really going to be super consequential, and that is next week in New Hampshire. So today I'm going to be focusing on filling out this map. You have a lot of Democrats that are saying, oh, they're going to hold the Senate. Some are even saying they're going to expand their lead in the Senate, which is totally laughable. Even if we buy the current generic polling, which again, we talked about in the last video, how they're likely underestimating Republicans because they're not even screening for likely voters most of the time. And when they do, there's like a disparity of like 5 to 6 points or so that's off in the Democrats' favor. But either way, what we know is even if we assume a neutral national environment, given the swing states and given how much they would have to move, not even taking Biden's low approval rating into account, it is very likely that Republicans would sweep the board with a lot of the toss-up Senate races here. Now, of course, there's other factors at play, and we're going to get into that, and we're going to fill out this entire map. But first, I have to tell you guys about my very good friends over at Noble Gold, whose CEO, Colin Plume, thinks quantitative tightening is setting up the stage for a gold rally. In his interview with the National Desk, Plume said that tightening is pushing the dollar up. However, he predicts that by next year, the Fed will print money again to restart economic activities. So if you're thinking of gold and silver right now, Noble Gold is giving away a free gold American Eagle coin with every eligible IRA or 401k in September. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold. Call the team now at 877-646-5347 to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. So we're going to start off on the map here and fill out the safe red states first, as is tradition on this channel. Idaho, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, both Oklahomas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Missouri, Kentucky, and Indiana. These are not going to be competitive really in the slightest. Also, Alaska. We don't know who the Republican is going to be that's going to end up winning. I would probably say, given what happened in the primary, Murkowski, sadly, is the favorite right now, although we don't know what's going to happen come Election Day. These things do change, and I wouldn't say that Chewbacca has zero chance, but it's much lesser of a chance than she originally had a couple of months ago because Democrats are voting for Murkowski and are likely going to rank her very high just to stop Chewbacca. So we also have Iowa. Chuck Grassley, in my opinion, is going to be winning by over 10 percentage points. And the state of Florida, I think Rubio's going to win by 10 or more. Some polls have him winning by like 5. But either way, Demings is not really the strongest candidate. Florida Dems are in complete and total disarray right now. And also Rubio, he won by like 5 or 6, if not even like by 7 points back in 2016. I believe now he's probably going to win by over 10 in this national environment. Not really the biggest fan of him, but the same polls that have him up by only 3 or 5 are the same polls that had Biden winning the state by like 9 points in October. And we know that didn't happen because Trump won the state by close to 4. So now we're going to be moving on to the safe Democrat states: Oregon, California, the state of Illinois, New York, Vermont, Connecticut, Maryland. Those are all going to be in the safe Democrat column. So there's only 11 states that are going to be even remotely competitive here to fill out on this map. And we are going to start off with the likely Republican states. Ohio, one could even argue Ohio will be safe at the end of the day in terms of a margin of victory. I think Vance is going to win by close to 10. He might win by more than 10. He might win by 9 or so. Either way, I'm going to be putting this one in the likely Republican column. You look at the state of Ohio. This is a state that Trump won by 8% both times, and that was in 2020. He won it by 8.1 in a D+4 national environment. You look at Ohio, it's still trending and swinging Republican in the majority of the state, and the part of the state that moved a little bit to the left, which was suburban Cincinnati. That is where J.D. Vance is from. He might uniquely have a point of strength there. He did very well in the primaries, but will also do very well in the part of the state, the northeastern part east of Cleveland. I did very well in the primary there. These are very pro-Trump areas. I believe that Vance is going to end up winning by close to 10 points when it's all said and done. Also, in the likely Republican column, we could put the state of Wisconsin. The state of Wisconsin, it is a state that was razor thin in 2016 and 2020. You have Ron Johnson as the Republican nominee. You have Mandela Barnes as the Democrat nominee, who's very far left, espoused a lot of anti-American rhetoric on the 4th of July. Yeah, that's the guy that you think is going to turn out Obama-Trump voters to vote for him in the Driftless area. Not going to happen. Driftless area, if anything, will continue to swing Republican this midterm cycle. You look at the WOW counties, it is very evident that Ron Johnson will likely do better in them than Donald Trump, because statewide Republicans do typically do better in them than Trump. He outperformed Trump there by a decent amount in 2016. He'll do very well in suburban Milwaukee. He'll get out the rural base just enough to the point where I believe he's going to end up winning by, I don't know, around 7 points. I know they had that one Trafalgar poll. I believe that that's an outlier. They did oversample Democrats by a little bit in it as well. So I would take that with a grain of salt. I'm still going likely R for Ron Johnson, and I believe that Tim Michaels will win by a similar margin to him as well in the governor's race, but we'll save that for the governor's prediction. So we also have the state of North Carolina. Ted Budd is the Republican nominee in the state. Sherry Beasley is the Dem nominee. There's not really anything that's super special about her. She's basically going to be their sacrificial lamb candidate that they're putting up on the Democrat side. Ted Budd is a decent candidate. He has appeal to the Trump base, but he also, I think, will do better than Trump, especially this cycle in the suburbs of Charlotte. He'll do very well in the northeastern part as well. That's kind of trended right. He'll do well in Dan Bishop's district as well in the southern part of the state. I believe he's going to end up winning by around 6 or 7 points or so at the end of the day in North Carolina. I'm going to hold on that prediction as well in the likely R column. So on the Democrat side, the state of Washington, I did a video on this a couple of days ago over the weekend because there was a poll out of Trafalgar that had it within the margin of error. You have Tiffany Smiley, the Republican nominee. She's running a very, very good campaign against Patty Murray, the Democrat incumbent, who's not really that popular, but looking at primary turnout this cycle, what we saw there, and just looking in general at the demography of the state, it's literally still Washington. The largest metro area there takes up the majority of the population. That's Seattle. That's Antifa land. Democrats are still likely going to win the state of Washington, in my opinion. It's going to be closer in this race than the state was in 2020, but I believe that Murray is going to win by under 10 points as of now, but still close to 10. If she did win it safe at the end of the day, I wouldn't be too surprised. Just like I wouldn't be super surprised if it got a little bit under 5 points as a margin. So I'll say that Murray's probably going to win it by 8 or so. Also, we have the state of Colorado. I'm going to be putting this into the likely Democrat column. Oh, we forgot Hawaii. Hawaii was down there. But either way, Colorado, I believe that that's going to be likely D. Republicans put up an awful nominee, and he's just wasted his time trying to appeal to people that are never going to vote Republican. He's trying to appeal to people that are just outside of the base. He's not even trying to, bring voters into the fold, kind of like how Youngkin did in Virginia by, being this guy that could, speak his ideas to appeal to the population of the state. No, he's just basically making sure that he can alienate the Republican base in the state at all costs. And while he might peel off some suburban voters in the process in suburban Denver, turnout in the rest of the state probably not going to be super high. And Colorado is still a state that will have high turnout, a very high percentage of the state as a college education, a very high percentage of the state votes by mail because they have a universal VBM system there. I believe that Colorado is going to go blue at the end of the day by around 6 points or so, give or take. So now we're going to be moving on to the lean Republican column, of which there will be 2 states in. The state of Pennsylvania will be the first one, which right now I agree. If the election was today, I don't think Oz would win by a lean margin. He may not even win at all. But either way, we have 2 months, and Oz has all of the momentum. And if you look at the polls, you will see that Oz is winning independents in a majority of the polls by a decent amount. It's the Republicans that say they're undecided, but they're not going to vote for Fetterman at the end of the day. Trump is going to barnstorm Pennsylvania with Oz, with Mastriano. I think the base is going to come home for Oz because Fetterman is that bad, and Oz is going to end up winning the state by around 3 points or so. At the end of the day, I think Oz will do better than Donald Trump did in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I think in the, rural part of the state, I still think the base is going to come out for Oz at the end of the day, even if they're just coming out against John Fetterman. So I do believe that Pennsylvania, when the base comes home, will end up being lean R at the end of the day. So now we go west. We go to the state of Nevada, which I think that this one could even be a likely margin at the end of the day. And if Republicans manage to win Pennsylvania and they manage to win Nevada, that would be enough to give them the Senate. And I'm very confident in the Oz momentum in Pennsylvania. And I'm also very confident in the state of Nevada as well, in Adam Laxalt. He's a great candidate. His family name is definitely prestigious in Nevada politics. The Nevada Democrats are in utter disarray. Republicans doing better with Hispanics in recent elections is definitely going to help them in Clark County. And Clark County, even though the national environment moved left by a couple of points in the 2020 election, Clark County moved right still. Despite it being a metro area, by 1.4%. That's where the state population is. The gubernatorial nominee was a countywide elected official. He's definitely going to help Laxalt out in the county as well. I believe that Clark is going to flip at the governorship level. I don't know about the Senate level, but even if it narrows to a 4-point loss or so, that would be more than enough to get Adam Laxalt to victory by a few points or so. I think he's going to win by closer to 4 regardless if he wins Clark County or not. So you could chalk that one up in the lean Republican column. I think that the reign of the Reid machine will officially be over on November 8th, 2022, or basically just whenever they count the votes in Nevada, which probably will take a week or so. But now we're going to be moving on to the lean Democrat state. I'm going to go over to New Hampshire. I don't believe that New Hampshire is going to flip at this point. Obviously, things change, but as time goes on, I know Hassan is not that popular. Democrats that are wish casting, saying it's going to be like safety or whatever, are out of their minds. I agree. But as of right now, I think it's probably going to go blue by, I don't know, like 2 points or so, may even be tilt Democrat. The Republican nominee, apparent nominee at this point, seems to be Don Bolduc. And Don Bolduc is somebody that you could say is Trumpian to a degree, and I don't think that that's why he's not the most viable candidate for New Hampshire. But he also has said a lot of very neoconservative things. He's a huge interventionist. He's tried to walk it back, but it's not really, in my opinion, going to play out too well in a general election. New Hampshire is notorious for being an anti-war state. Bush won it in 2000 when he was espousing some more populist anti-war rhetoric, but then when the war in Iraq happened, it, swung to the left. And this is a state that typically doesn't like incumbents at the presidential level because people typically campaign on being less hawkish than they end up being. Bolduc has basically said he wants troops on the ground fighting Russia and Ukraine. He's walked back those statements. I just don't think he's a good fit for the state. It's very libertarian. I think that like a Rand Paul type would be a decent choice that you could get up in New Hampshire. Probably not going to get much better than him. Maybe somebody like a Thomas Massey. But other than that, I don't think Bolduc is the best fit for the state. If he wins the nomination, I will support him 100%. But either way, have some reservations about his foreign policy, and I just think that he probably is going to end up falling short by a few points as well. So now we're going to go on to the final 2 states, which are going to be the most competitive of this cycle, the Sun Belt states here of Arizona and Georgia. We'll start off with Georgia, where you have the football legend and Heisman Trophy winner Herschel Walker, who is a folk hero in the state of Georgia, won the primary very easily despite not campaigning that much. He's the Republican nominee. He's going up against Raphael Warnock, who is the Democrat senator who won in the special election runoff in 2020. And I believe that Herschel Walker is going to end up winning. Warnock has outspent him so far 3-1, and he really hasn't led a poll over the past couple of months or so that was like not a Dem internal. I really think as the general election season in the fall ramps up and gets underway, especially as football season gets underway, I believe that Herschel Walker is going to maintain momentum. Georgia in the suburbs, they've definitely moved away from the Republicans for decades now up in Atlanta. You look at the Atlanta area, massive swings in the opposite directions. Demographic trends and changes, etc., have not benefited Republicans. But either way, I do believe that Herschel Walker is going to end up winning at the end of the day, even if he ends up being a one-term senator, because by 2028, Georgia may be too far gone. But as of now, I think that Biden's unpopularity will cause the suburbs to revert back just enough to get Herschel Walker that victory. And his name recognition definitely plays a role in helping him as well, which leaves us with the last state, Arizona, where Blake Masters won the primary in early August. And he's been running a very good campaign in terms of messaging, in terms of attacking Mark Kelly. Of course, you have people that are going to say he's caving on some issues. He did rework his website, which I think went a little bit over the top that he had to rework it like that. He didn't have to do that because they're going to attack him anyways. But either way, he is somebody that is a very skilled individual. He's already pivoted to the general election. He's attacking Mark Kelly really where it hurts. And as a result, I think that he would be favored by probably a lean margin or so in a typical situation, given the fact that he's effectively tying Mark Kelly to the Biden administration, really just, putting a hole through this narrative that he's a moderate astronaut or whatever when he's voting with Biden 100% of the time or so. But Mitch McConnell decides that he's going to, stop funding the race until October, which he finally, struck a deal with Thiel, but he's not funding him in September. I still think Masters is going to win despite this. It's still going to be very close. Definitely Mark Kelly is still an incumbent senator. Not always the easiest to knock off an incumbent senator there, but I do believe that Blake Masters is going to get it done, and I do believe that he is going to end up winning in the state of Arizona at the end of the day, probably by around 2 points or so, give or take. So Republicans still are favored to take the Senate. They're going to have 53 Senate seats. It's very possible they could get 54, depending on what happens in New Hampshire. But either way, I just cannot see them not retaking the Senate, given the metrics that we know. I think that it's going to really come down to how things shake out in a lot of these swing states that voted to the right of the country in 2020. Many of them have incumbent senators that have voted 100% with the current president, who has an approval rating that is far more underwater than Trump's was at this point during the 2018 midterm. So do keep all of this in mind moving forward. Don't listen to the hype. Obviously, polls typically at this stage in the game favor Democrats a little bit more than the end result. And Arizona is another example of that, by the way, where you do see, Republicans tend to gain steam later in the election cycle in the state of Arizona. Same thing goes for a lot of the Rust Belt states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin as well, etc. We've seen this movie play out before so many times. We can't give in to the dooming. Got to keep going forward. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.